All right, so judgment has been reserved in Tom Moyane's application to cross-examine Public Enterprises Minister Pravin Gordhan. Now, the former SARS Commissioner made a second application to the Commission after being implicated in Gordhan's clarification affidavit. Moyane's first application was dismissed after he failed to demonstrate how Gordhan had implicated him in state capture. Mbalenhle Mthethwa, SABC reporter, was there at the State Capture Commission for us today. Hi, Mbali. Thanks for joining us this evening. Of course, today at the centre of this application was, of course, Tom Moyane not being implicated in the state capture project and then being implicated by the Public Enterprises Minister Pravin Gordhan.
Okay, so that is at the centre of today's testimony. We've heard Advocate Pretorius, who is one of the advocates with the Commission of Inquiry, saying that the latest affidavit has created some confusion. He says that it is in the interest of the Commission to actually grant Moyane leave to cross-examine Pravin Gordhan because of the information that has emerged from this. Now, we heard Deputy Chief Justice Raymond Zondo reading out parts of the affidavit where he talks about how Gordhan alleges that Moyane abused the legal process by laying criminal charges against him with the Hawks when he basically alleging that he was involved in the establishment of the so-called rogue unit. And he says that the charges were laid in the interest of pursuing the state capture project. At the time, we know that the Minister of Public Enterprises was Finance Minister, and this was in the interest of removing him as Finance Minister to basically put in someone else in his position, someone who may have been who may have been a Gupta-linked minister, if we can use that term. But we hear Deputy Chief Justice Raymond Zondo saying that the latest allegations are very serious and they may just sway his judgment, his decision at the end of the day to possibly grant Moyane leave to cross-examine Gordhan.
The rogue unit also coming up once again?
Yes, indeed, the rogue unit has come up. We hear Moyane's legal representatives arguing that it is in the interest of fairness that the Commission would grant Moyane leave to cross-examine Gordhan. And they're saying that if they don't, if the Commission doesn't, obviously it basically reinforces the notion that Gordhan is immunized from being cross-examined. And they're saying that the allegations they have brought forward were based on the strength of a number of reports, the Skakana reports, the Kroon report, as well as the KPMG report. And they're saying that basically these reports have not gone under a review process and therefore they still stand, except for the latest report, which is the Public Protector's report, which also alleges that the alleged SARS rogue unit was unlawful. And the only report so far that says that it wasn't unlawful is the Nugent report, which obviously Advocate Dalimpofi dismisses as a red herring and misleading.
And speaking of that Nugent commission, I mean, you're already starting to see in Bali some of the implementations of the recommendations of that commission report. Talk to us a bit about that.
Okay, so definitely we are seeing that. We started seeing a bit earlier. SARS started putting certain executives who were implicated in wrongdoing during the Nugent Commission of Inquiry and who were actually instrumental in what is called a purge and removing people with institutional memory within the revenue collector. And we saw IT head Makeke Mokoane also being placed on special suspension, as well as Luther Lebelo, who is the head of HR there. But recently we're also hearing that they've also parted ways with both these two individuals who have been implicated in the Nugent Commission of Inquiry. We also know that the Nugent report also recommended that the president fire Moyane with immediate effect, which we saw happen in December last week. Just going back to today, the other thing that Advocate Dalimpofu also testified to, or rather spoke to, is the fact that the criminal charges that were laid against Pravin Gordhan with his involvement in the alleged SARS rogue unit says that this Moyane acted in the interest of good governance, and it was not out of malice, and it was not in pursuing the state capture project.
All right, Mbali, unfortunately that's all we have time for tonight. Thank you very much for your time. The SABC's Mthethwa, who was at the State Capture Commission for us today. Thank you very much for joining us, Francis.